This is such a major
What
part.
about today?
Lady, shut the up, man.
No, you
I'm
don't-
talking about, no,
you
listen,
don't
man.
Don't get to speak to me ever again. Ever.
You.
His
We'll talk.
experience
We'll talk. Will she stop running her mouth? Damn it. That's what we'll man.
It was supposed to be a moment of healing, but it turned into a full-blown disaster watched by millions. When DMX walked onto the set of Iyanla, Fix My Life, he thought he was there for an honest talk. What he didn't know was that behind the scenes, a plan was already in motion, one designed to break him.
Get up.
No.
What do you mean, no? What is your thing? I'm tired of hearing that same sad story and you're saying, we need to get to the bottom. What's the real problem? I'm telling you the real problem. No. Are you high right now? I'm like, what? Lady, what are you talking about now?
The lights were bright, the cameras ready, and the crew had a surprise waiting for him. His son, brought in without warning. DMX wasn't told about this. He wasn't prepared. And the moment he saw his son walk out, something changed in his face. It wasn't joy. It was shock. He felt cornered. And when Iyanla started pushing, asking if he was under the influence on national TV, the trap became clear. This wasn't a safe space. It was a setup. A moment crafted not to help, but to catch him slipping. DMX didn't explode right away. He tried to hold it in, but with every sharp question, every unexpected twist, the tension built up like a ticking clock.
You don't know how many B words he called me. You don't know how, until the point where we had security on the set.
Wow.
And security had to really restrain my son. Because my son is not accustomed to hearing men call me out my name.
I know.
Viewers at home weren't seeing healing, they were watching a man being picked apart piece by piece. What was meant to be a heart-to-heart became a battlefield, and DMX was forced to defend himself in front of the world. But that wasn't the whole story, because behind the cameras, another powerful name was pulling the strings. That powerful name? Oprah Winfrey. While she wasn't the one asking the questions on camera, her influence was everywhere. The show aired on her network, OPWN. The structure, the setup, even the way the episode was framed, all had Oprah's fingerprints. And according to many, it wasn't the first time she used her platform to call out hip-hop voices she didn't agree with. Over the years, Oprah made it clear she didn't like the raw, unfiltered side of hip-hop. She criticized rappers for promoting violence, disrespecting women, and sending the wrong message to the youth. But critics noticed something deeper. She seemed to only go after certain kinds of rappers. Not the polished, suit-wearing types, but the gritty, street-raised ones like DMX. And that's what made this moment feel personal. To fans, it wasn't just a TV show, it was a public takedown. DMX wasn't shown as a father trying to reconnect or a man fighting his demons. He was shown as a problem to be fixed, a warning, a headline waiting to happen. And when Iyanla pushed too far, asking questions meant to trigger rather than heal, viewers could feel it. This wasn't about care, it was about control, ratings, optics. And what happened next would leave even longtime DMX fans stunned, because the ambush was far from over. What shocked viewers the most wasn't just the tone of the show, it was what they did to DMX behind the scenes. According to him, producers never told him that his son would appear on set. He was blindsided. One moment, he was preparing for a personal interview. The next, he was face-to-face with his child on national television, surrounded by cameras, lights, and strangers. DMX didn't fake a reaction. He didn't smile for the cameras. Instead, he froze. You could see the pain in his eyes. Then came the questions, one after another, pushed by Iyanla, whispered through his son as if feeding him lines. Ask for a healthy relationship. Tell him what you need. It didn't feel real. It felt staged.
Ask me what you want now.
A relationship. A healthy relationship with you. Can we have that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm...
Clean, completely clean.
DMX responded the only way he knew how, with raw honesty. He said, "I don't even know him like that." Harsh words, but they came from a place of deep hurt, a place TV producers had no business turning into a show. Still, the cameras rolled, and when he tried to speak about the past, his memories, his regrets, Iyanla interrupted. She took control. What could have been a healing moment turned into a courtroom scene, with DMX in the hot seat.
The way you would talk made me feel like beneath you. Even what you were saying was good.
Just give me an example.
I mean, it was years ago.
Just one example. Just one, since I've done it so much. This is such a major
What
part.
about today?
Lady, shut the up, man.
No, you
I'm
don't-
talking about, no,
you
listen,
don't
man.
get to
Listen,
talk
man,
to me like
I'm not going for this.
And just like that, the chance for a real conversation disappeared. But DMX wasn't the only one who felt betrayed, because once the episode aired, the backlash came fast. And it wasn't just from fans. The backlash hit harder than anyone expected, and it didn't come from just fans. Therapists, media critics, and even fellow artists spoke out, calling the episode what it really was: exploitation.
I was like, she was just mean and out. Like, I was mad at you for a good little minute.
They said DMX wasn't helped. He was humiliated. Instead of offering support, the show poked at his deepest wounds for views. Even more disturbing, DMX had reportedly been 6 months sober at the time. No drugs, no alcohol, just a man trying to stay clean and rebuild his life. But none of that made it to air. Instead, the show chose to focus on his anger, his outbursts, and his pain. That decision changed everything. The internet lit up. Viewers posted clips questioning the way DMX was treated. Some said it felt like watching a man be dissected while still breathing. Others said it looked more like an ambush than a therapy session. The line between help and harm had clearly been crossed. And then came DMX's own words, sharp and clear. He said the show was set up to make him look bad, that Iyanla went off script and dug into trauma he never agreed to share. If she was a man, he later said, I would have swung. He felt violated, not just by one person, but by an entire system pretending to offer healing while secretly chasing headlines. But this wasn't the first time Oprah's network was accused of doing this, and the pattern would only get harder to ignore. Oprah's critics began connecting the dots. This wasn't just about DMX, it was part of a larger pattern. For years, Oprah had openly criticized hip-hop, especially artists who represented the raw, unfiltered truth of street life. She rarely gave them space to explain their pain. Instead, she framed them as the problem. Rappers like Ludacris and 50 Cent had already spoken out. Ludacris said he felt ambushed on her show, his words cut and edited. 50 Cent even named his dog Oprah as a joke, saying she always found something wrong with hip-hop, but stayed quiet about powerful white men who had done worse.
I didn't have anything against Oprah.
You just called up.
I'm gonna tell you why.
You named your dog Oprah, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Dad.
Look.
I remember that.
No, look, every time she made a mention to hip-hop culture, it was something that was wrong with it.
So when OWN targeted DMX, fans weren't surprised. They were angry. They saw it as another attempt to control the narrative, to make street-born rappers seem dangerous or broken, unless they were polished enough to fit her image. But DMX wasn't built for that. He didn't fake smiles, he didn't follow scripts, and that's what made the next moment so explosive. The moment finally snapped when DMX lost his temper on camera. You could feel it building, his voice rising, his body tensing. He tried to stay calm, but the pressure was too much. Being accused, ambushed, and questioned in front of millions was the last straw. He shouted, he cursed, he stood up. The scene quickly turned chaotic, but instead of backing off, the cameras kept rolling. They captured every second of his breakdown, the moment the producers had clearly been waiting for. But what they called a meltdown, many saw as a man fighting back, not just against Iyanla, but against the idea that his pain was entertainment, that his trauma was just another episode to sell. This wasn't healing, it was a spectacle. And when it was over, DMX walked away feeling betrayed, not helped. Viewers were left questioning everything, but behind that raw moment was something even deeper, a love for his son that refused to be manipulated. Even through the chaos, one thing stood out: DMX's love for his son. It wasn't soft or picture perfect, but it was real. Buried under all the yelling and frustration was a father who had been hurt, who wanted connection, but didn't trust the setting he was thrown into. When his son asked for a healthy relationship, you could see DMX hesitate, not because he didn't want it, but because the moment felt fake, forced, like a script someone else had written. Still, he tried. He spoke about old memories, about a photo with his son and 2 pit bulls, trying to hold on to something real. But the show didn't care about that. They didn't focus on his effort, they focused on his flaws. To many watching, it became clear this wasn't a father refusing love, it was a father refusing to be used. And what came after would only prove him right, because this so-called healing show left more damage than healing behind. After the episode aired, the damage was done. DMX wasn't shown as a man trying to heal, he was painted as unstable, angry, and beyond help. But that wasn't the full story. Just before the show, he had been sober for 6 months. No drinking, no smoking, just trying to stay clean and out of trouble.
That's how I was like that with the last 6 months of my grandmother. So I just woke up one day, didn't want to get out. And I was clean and sober. Didn't drink anything the last 6 months of my life.
None of that made the final cut. The show didn't highlight his progress. It didn't show his fight to stay on track. Instead, it focused on his worst moments, edited to shock, not to inspire. That's why fans and critics called it out. They said the show chose drama over truth, pain over progress. But what they called a meltdown, many saw as a man fighting back, not just against Iyanla, but against the idea that his pain was entertainment, that his trauma was just another episode to sell. This wasn't healing, it was a spectacle. And when it was over, DMX walked away feeling betrayed, not helped. Viewers were left questioning everything, but behind that raw moment was something even deeper, a love for his son that refused to be manipulated. The controversy sparked a bigger conversation. People began asking, why is black pain always turned into a show? Why are rappers like DMX used as symbols of what's wrong, while others are praised for being polished and safe? It wasn't just fans speaking out. Other artists, activists, and even mental health experts said the episode crossed a line. They called it emotional manipulation. They said DMX's real story, his fight, his growth, was ignored in favor of shock value. Bet even launched a response series, Hip Hop vs. America, to reclaim the narrative and show the full picture of artists like DMX. For many, this wasn't about one bad interview. It was about decades of framing, where pain is spotlighted, but context is cut out, where real struggles are turned into headlines instead of handled with care. And as people looked closer, Oprah's role in it all became harder to defend, especially when compared to how she treated others. When people compared how Oprah handled hip-hop artists like DMX to how she treated others, the double standard became clear. She publicly criticized rappers for years, but stayed silent when it came to powerful white men like Harvey Weinstein. While she gave a platform to survivors of Russell Simmons and Michael Jackson, both men who either denied or were cleared of accusations, she never did the same for Weinstein. Even after he was convicted, that silence spoke volumes. To many, it confirmed what they had long suspected. This wasn't about justice or healing, it was about control, about who gets framed and who gets forgiven. And in that world, DMX was never meant to win. But despite it all, he stayed true to himself. He didn't smile for cameras or fake emotions. He stood up even when the system tried to break him. And that's what made this moment unforgettable. Not because it was messy, but because it was real. DMX didn't just survive the setup, he exposed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know, was DMX set up, or was it all just misunderstood? Your voice matters.